The purpose of psychology is to give us a completely different idea of the things we know best. Philosopher Paul Varley knew that psychology was a confusing subject for most people when he made that statement. Knowing that I want to major in child psychology, I've researched psychology extensively in order to know what it is that I'm getting into. Today I'll inform you about the basics of child psychology. I will explain the science behind psychology, the most common disorders with child psychology, and the influence of the American Psychological Association in child psychology. First, I will explain the scientific aspect of child psychology. It is commonly thought that psychology in general is meaningless. However, people can gain appreciation through knowledge. There has been debate for years over whether psychology is a hard or a soft science. According to Herbert Gans, professor at Columbia University, hard science is classified as a rigorous, exact, and detached from human experiences. The same professor would define soft science as not dealing with mathematical reasoning, but instead dealing with everyday communication and relationships. Based upon those definitions, psychology would be a soft science. Although research is done in this field, the research will most likely be based on observation of the behavior. Saul McLeod, author for Simply Psychology, as well as many others, may argue that doing any research means you must follow the scientific method. He would not be technically wrong by accepting this idea, however, the argument for that is not as solid as the other side of hard and soft psychology. Now that you know psychology is typically soft psychology, I will discuss the most common psychological disorders among children. Sometimes it is unclear as to what is considered a disorder versus a phase, and knowing the most common disorders is beneficial for people to become more understanding. Anxiety disorders are very common in children and adolescents. Anxiety disorders, according to WebMD, mean that children can respond to different situations with fear. And as a physical response, they can get really sweaty, they can get really anxious, they can start to tense up, their heart rate will quicken. Anxiety disorders are often treated with relaxation techniques. Attention deficit hyperactivity disorder is another most common and talked about disorder found in children. ADHD sufferers have trouble paying attention and following directions according to WebMD. Children with ADHD move constantly and have many other impulsive tendencies. ADHD is often treated with medication to allow the child to focus more on the task at hand. Learning and communication disorders are also prevalent in young people. Children with these disorders have trouble understanding or expressing their thoughts. Disorders like these are sometimes best treated with one-on-one instruction in order to continue focus. Now that we understand some of the most common issues, I would like to tell you about the American Psychological Association and their branch with child psychology. The American Psychological Association is very influential in any field of psychology and its research, so knowledge about the APA can be very beneficial. Clinical child psychology became part of the APA in 1962, according to the records of Marilyn Erickson, chair of the Historical Committee of Child Psychology. However, it became part of Clinical Psychology Division in APA, which means that it was a part of clinical psychology as a branch versus child psychology, so the children got underrepresented. After many petitions to the APA, clinical child psychology was granted its own division, Division 53. The APA could now better focus on gathering research and understanding of the issues children face. Today, spokespeople for the American Psychological Association explained that Division 53, the Society of Clinical Child and Adolescent Psychology, is meant to encourage and develop the field through integration of its scientific and professional aspects. It is important to be familiar with the main organizations at work in the field of psychology when learning about the topic. I have now informed you about some of the basics concerning child psychology. We have learned about psychology and the science behind it. We've learned about the most common issues children face in psychology, and we've learned about the American Psychological Association's history with clinical psychology. I hope that having this knowledge allows for you to look at the field in a different way and understand what happens with children dealing with these issues.